Hello everyone and welcome again to another Y2K episode. My name is Blake. And one day you're going to be living in a van down by the river. Just kidding. But anyways, this is my Delica L300, the 1993 diesel manual four-wheel drive Delica that I bought a few years ago, and I wanted to do a video discussing my ownership after, I guess, what has it been? About 5 years now. So let's fire it up. Make sure it's in neutral. Don't need to worry about glow plugs because it's 70 degrees outside and rainy and foggy, as you can see. And I figured that would actually be a good time to make this video. That's what it's made for. So first gear, it's going to be over here because we're right-hand drive. We do have the wipers on. And we're off in the little van that could. Exit out onto the residential street. Some light off-roading, some gravel. What this van likes to do, but it's very bumpy because you're literally on the the axle here, the front axle. And I believe they're both solid axles. There's a 4Runner right there. So kind of like this, a 4Runner, but not really, but a van version is what this would be. So anyways, here we are in the Delica. I wanted to kind of go over the good things about this, some of the things we've had to address. I guess you could call those bad things. And just kind of what my thoughts are after owning this since like fall of 2019. I actually had a S600 that I sold, and then I bought this for about the same price. Looking back on that, the S600 is worth a lot more money now, but this is more fun for my wife and I and the dogs to kind of mosey around in. So I bought this from Japanese Classics. I did make a video of that. Maybe I'll link that up here so you can watch that if you want to. You don't have to, but if you would like to see my purchase process, I did document it, along with my Diablo as well, if you want to watch that. So, but I use this van a lot. I take it to the coffee shop. I put all the dogs in it. There's dog fur everywhere, and I don't care. This is the dog car. I saw one of these in like Seattle on vacation several years ago, probably 2017, and it said I'm gonna have one of those one day. And when I saw this come up for sale, it had to be mine. So I bought it sight unseen and went up to Virginia and drove it all the way back to Florida, which you know, I wasn't thinking about how old this thing was when I did that, but it made it home flawlessly. No issues at all. So let's start with kind of the good things about this van, because there's a lot of them, and I drive it a bunch, way more than any of my other older cars. And it's Japanese, which means it's pretty much reliable. It's pretty much reliable. We'll talk about that maybe in some of the bad, which is more just maintenance, but just things we've had to do. So yeah, it's been a good little van. We've done a couple road trips in it to not much avail. We did a trip to North Georgia. We did the trip from Virginia down to here. Little 1 hour, 2 hour trips, and it's been great. We actually did drive it we drove to North Georgia twice, I forgot. And it's always been good. And it's just fun because it's a turbo diesel manual four-wheel drive van. That's just, they don't make that anymore. And it was kind of quirky when it came out. This and the Hi-Ace were pretty much the same thing from what I can gather. You know, both kind of off-road focused vans. They did make a ski version of this van. The name is leaving me now. Maybe it was something with the Chalet, something. Charbonnet. There it is, the Charbonnet. And that had extra insulation and really cool, like, bus-style interior. A lot of them had the glass roofs, which leak a lot, so I'm actually glad I don't have one of those, but they do look the most rad, if you want to say, from that kind of time period. And if you're going skiing in Japan or in Europe, that would have been a pretty sweet thing to take. But it's really fun to drive. I'm glad I didn't get an automatic. It seems a lot of them are automatic, but there are a fair amount of manuals. But I told myself if I bought one of these, I wanted it to be stick. It's really short gearing for off-roading, and also it just doesn't have a lot of power, so it needs short gears just to get out of its own way. I think it's under 100 horsepower. I want to say it's 85 or 95, something like that. It's the 4056, which is in, I'm sure, millions and millions of Mitsubishis of all shapes and sizes. This is on a Pajero chassis, which that chassis won Dakar many times, that's actually really cool. So it really does have some off-road capability. I've used it a little bit, but I'm mainly driving on the street. But it's nice to know if I wanted to go out in the snow on a trip, or if I wanted to go kind of off-roading, that it could do it. And it could do it while fitting, 8 people in here. It's got a lot of room, and that's another good thing about this. And you can actually make the back seats face each other. And then I think there's even a little table you could buy or something, or some of them came with it. But it's set up for camping. It's got a high roof. The back seats turn into a bed, and all the things that you would want to do in a little van like this. Have I ever slept overnight in it? I have not. But you could do it. You could live the van life in your Delica. But for me, kind of the best thing about it is just you don't see a lot of them, obviously. You probably see them more in kind of out west or Washington or something, where a lot of people drive these and overland in them. Mine's just really for just around town, and I really like to get coffee in it with the dogs. But it has a multitude of uses. It's very utilitarian, and it's very basic on the inside, and I like all that stuff. I like kind of old off-road vehicles and old sports cars, mainly 80s and 90s, which for us these days is starting to get old. Man, it is foggy. You cannot see anything out here today. But I just love the way it looks. We've named it Wally, and that's actually our plate. The little robot trash compactor guy that was on the Disney movie, and his job was to put trash in cubes and compact it, and that's exactly kind of what this van looks like a little robot from like the late 80s, early 90s, and that's really what kind of made me fall in love with this thing. It's a big square. It looks like kind of like a cube, I don't know if it's like a toaster, but it's kind of like our version of the Mystery Machine, our version of the Volkswagen bus, I guess. Turn the lights on. That would be important to do right now that it's getting foggy. And I do have LED lights. We did upgrade these to LEDs, and the visibility is a million times better. And I did put in like a touchscreen with CarPlay stereo for GPS, etc. when we're doing any kind of trip. It's nice to have it, and just be able to play normal music is great. I'm not trying to keep this original. It's also got an altimeter, which is pretty cool. It has a gyro that's broken. I'm assuming the heat got to it in Florida, because this windshield doesn't really help guard it from the sun, and that cracked. But the altimeter does work. I've seen it working, and that's a pretty sweet kind of like rally-esque thing to have in your van. It's quirky. These doors are paper thin. This little thing, this rain guard is like cracked and it rattles, and this door tries to suck out at interstate speeds. Anything over like 65, this door will start kind of like rattling. Mine has never really aligned perfectly, but this is about as good as it gets. You can see it kind of drifts to the left. Maybe the frame has had an issue at one point. I don't know. It wasn't recorded on the Japanese documents, of course, but we've kind of figured it out, a way to make it drive nicely. I don't think any of them ever probably drove perfectly straight anyways. It does have 31s on it, but terrains, I'll probably switch those to BFG all-terrains at some point. But they've still got a lot of tread on them, and they work for now. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun in this van. If you're looking for something fun, it's fairly reliable because it's Japanese, and just something cool to do around town. You could do trips in it. I would do it maybe across the country, and I know some people do, but maybe like a little 4 or 5 hour trip would be fun. Your speed will be 65, 70. You wouldn't really want to go much more than that. I have done it, but it doesn't like it that much, and I don't think it's good to run it at anything over, like, I've heard anything over 3,000 of these can cause like issues with the head and stuff, maybe crack a head bolt. But so I try to keep it around like 100 to 110 clicks, maybe more like 105 if I'm on a road trip, and it seems to be pretty happy around that mark. Anything else and you're kind of pushing it. But we'll talk about kind of the things that have been maintained or things that have gone wrong. To start off, these things are known to have like a leaky front end, like the seals on the front of this. They leak and then it comes into the floorboard. This one, it does have that. We did put some sealant in the cracks. We tried to take the panels off, and there's some screws on this windshield that we were using, like one of those screwdrivers where you press on it and then it like torques it. I don't know the exact name of it. My wife's father-in-law is a much better mechanic than I am. I call him a mechanic. He's really like an engineer that happens to work on cars. So we didn't do that because we were afraid to crack the windshield. There are some spare ones available, so maybe we'll try it again. But the sealant stuff we've used has done a pretty good job. And now it's starting to rain pretty good. So we'll just crank up the intermittent here. Well, we'll just go to full on. This is great. We're in a rainstorm, and that's fine with us. So yeah, we addressed that. Had a leaky brake master cylinder. We addressed that. There's some rust in the doors. That's pretty common with these, so it's going to need to be sanded down and bondoed and replaced. If I do that, I'm probably going to end up repainting the whole van, and I'm not really in a hurry for that, but it does need to be done because it does bother me. But that's just kind of what happens to some of these. You know, they're in humid areas and they start to rust in Japan. You know, like Okinawa and stuff. So all that's by the ocean. Any kind of tropical kind of vibe, I'm assuming would be a problem with these. So this one only had like 57,000 kilometers on it when I bought it. I'm gonna flip around here. And that was verified. So it was really low mileage. I think it's got 83,000 on it now. So I've done some good mileage in this thing, and I'm happy because I'm getting my use out of it. They're worth like 15 grand. They seem to hold their value, which is nice. We had a leaky diesel fuel pump, which is very common on these once again, and I think it was leaking the day I bought it, and I started to notice like just little drips. And so yeah, we ended up fixing that. That was quite a process. So I ended up shipping it off to Delica USA, and the person in Philadelphia rebuilt it, and now it runs great. While we did that replacement, we also did the timing belt. We had to make sure everything was done right on the timing. Thankfully, my wife's father, like I said, he's very smart, and we got everything dialed in the first time. We didn't have any issues on the startup. We did all the other belts, and we did the water pump. So that's all good to go. We did the shocks. Those were just, you know, old. Shifter bushings, that was nice because it shifts a lot better now. We did the four-wheel drive and this, both of the, I think, the bushings for those. So that makes it more confidence inspiring, to say the least. And I'm trying to think if there's any, there's a little thing on the transmission, like a little bulb that controls, when things get hot, it releases pressure, and that tore. So one time it released pressure and it released transmission fluid all over underneath the car on a trip. But we fixed that, so that is good now as well. Man, it is really coming down. Hopefully you can still hear me. And that's pretty much it. We do oil changes. You know, I think maybe we did the coolant when we did the water pump. But this thing is built to last. Besides the body, which has the rusting issue, these are pretty robust little industrial kind of, you know, everyday things. You could definitely daily drive this if you wanted to. It's not very fast. So you want to live in a place probably didn't have a major freeway or something for your commute, but it could do that. It can still do that. The gas mileage, it's not very good. At least on the interstate, it's not very good. It's like 14.8. That probably has a lot to do with the aerodynamics, I would have to imagine, because it's basically just a brick going through the air. So, but yeah, that's the maintenance. The bad, I would say, is more of the things like the rust in the doors and stuff. That those are just factory things that happens to these cars as they get older. My little front brush bar, I mean, you want to call it that, bull bar, whatever, that's starting to get some surface rust on it. I also live by the water, so it's not really helping in Florida. So yeah, those are kind of the little things that after, you know, 5 years, it's not too bad. Compared to the other cars I have, it's solidly a winner. And the parts they're pretty cheap. You can find them thanks to the internet and the forums. They're abundantly easy to find. There are some stuff stuff that's probably harder to find, but I've been pretty fortunate. You can even find windshields. They're like $200 from Delica USA. I checked on those a few months ago in case we want to tackle this and we crack the windshield to try and fully, properly seal these front fender body parts. So, but yeah, that's kind of the ownership story. It's been a good van. I drive it a lot. It's great for hauling dogs or furniture or any kind of thing you want. You can put your friends in it. One time we put our friends in it and we took it to Alabama. It was like a 3.5 hour drive, and we were all in here together, and it was great. It didn't stop as well as it did with 2 people in it, but it did the job. So if you're looking for something to either daily drive that's older and reliable, or if you want something that's fun for like a little weekend adventure, or just a van to take to the coffee shop because all your other cars are old and Italian, it's good for that. So I hope you enjoyed my little ownership review. There's probably a lot more things I could say about it, but overall it's just a fun little van, and they deserve their praise. They are really cool and unique. So and you get a lot of attention. You know, the first time you're driving it around your town when they haven't seen everyone, they give you a thumbs up. It's a van that's jacked up like that. That's just cool. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And if you're in the market for one, I highly recommend picking one up and enjoying it. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode of my little JDM van that could. And you could live down by a river in this if you really wanted to. But I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.